Basically, anyone who wants to reduce anything to just, I think, is a real problem. I'm very tired of the tyranny of just. Oh, it's just your country, bro. It's just your money that you're being taxed. It's just a million immigrants wandering around your country every year who've been brought in. A city the size of Birmingham has been brought in. It's just. And nothing is just. Actually, everything is interconnected, not only to everything else around it, but to the past and the future. And these things are all just a part of a giant metaphysical continuum that goes back right into the mist of time that is actually unbroken. Did you know that you carry 10% on your genes on average will be from the Stone Age hunter-gatherers that predate agriculture in Britain? Mm-hmm. So you're carrying them forward into the future. And so it's just, nothing's just anything. Everything's actually an insanely complicated web of deeply meaningful events that we reduce at our peril, frankly.
We're here at the Witan 2024 for Shielding's events with one of the organisers of the events and our first speaker of the conference, Maven. But this is obviously your fourth event. So if we're speaking to people who are interested in this event, want to know what it's all about, what would you say to those people?
Yeah, so we're a academic conference for people of alternative thought, let's say. So we grew out of the political communities for people like Carl Benjamin, Nima Parvini, that sort of thing. And we try to find a place for people who are somewhat dissatisfied with modern politics to discuss real solutions, real intellectual problems. And yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Hello, my name is Jess.
My name's Elizabeth.
Today we're here with Professor Ed Dutton, author of several books like Woke Eugenics, The Past is a Future Country, and many others. What would you say your area of expertise is?
Evolutionary psychology. It's the fact that we are an advanced ape and we are evolved in certain ways and how that influences our behaviour.
Interesting. So what was your speech about?
It was about woke eugenics. So it's this idea that actually wokeness is a selection event. Wokeness takes anybody that is not genetically healthy, and being genetically healthy is associated with being conservative and being religious and being traditional, and it induces them into a death cult where they don't pass on their genes, and therefore the mutant genes that have built up since the Industrial Revolution are purged via wokeness, and we remain genetically healthy across time, both as a subspecies and as a species.
The active participation in politics for the polity, for the average person, is psychologically harmful. It causes depression, anxiety, and the things that motivate voting are not enthusiasm, but rather anger and fear. And when you put the weight of the government on everybody's futures, on each individual person, well, they are all bearing the weight of the crown.
Yeah, regardless of whether you agree or disagree with democracy, it feels like it's something we have to contend with in society. And that's what this event feels like it's all about.
So we're producing less energy now than we were, say, 20 years ago?
Yes, much less. Obviously, we've killed our coal industry.
Right.
That's dead, buried.
Yes.
The oil and gas reserves in the North Sea are largely depleted and haven't been invested in properly. So the amount coming out of them has dropped off massively.
Okay.
And we haven't really got anything to put back into them. They've put a lot of money into wind and solar.
Well, what about all of that stuff? Isn't that just going up and making up for it?
The nominal capacity is going up.
Right.
The actual amount of electricity it's making is not.
Right. Okay.
Only today
Yes.
it's overcast, so
yes.
all those millions of solar
It's supposed to be
panels
summer.
are not doing anything.
Yes.
And it's not particularly windy.
No.
So,
And as you pointed out, it can also be windy at night, which is fantastic. I'm generating loads of energy, but there's nobody trying
Everybody's in bed, yeah.
to boil your kettle.
no. Edward Dutton, what's your thoughts on IQ and autism?
My thoughts on it? Well, there's some studies that indicate that at a very high level of IQ, there is some association between outlier high IQ and autistic traits, because the extreme male brain is about systematizing and solving problems. That's autism. And if you've got outlier high IQ, you're very good at solving problems. And so you can see how if those two things were related, you'd be very good at solving problems, and so it would elevate your IQ. But then some people have cast doubt on that research because they've said that it uses Mensa samples, and the kind of intelligent people that join Mensa are going to be nerds and autists anyway. But there seems to be some relationship, and that people, autism, you are overstimulated, you take in too much information and you can't deal with it. And if you have very high IQ, there's a degree to which you are taking in more information. The more you can take in, the better you'll be able to analyse it and solve a problem with it. So I can see, at least theoretically, how there would be some kind of relationship between outlier haiku and autism. You also get the opposite effect, which is the what you call the idiot savant, the autistic savant, which is a person who has extremely narrow IQ, is retarded but has a very narrow IQ and it's extraordinarily high. So Derek Parvacini is mentally retarded, but he has brilliant, he's pitch perfect, he's very narrow intelligence ability. So you get that effect as well.
Do you think autism will save the West?
I like to think that a combination of based Gen Z, the based white working class, and high IQ autists will band together. Will band together and fight off the orcs of wokeness and high mutational load and all this sort of thing. Yes, but perhaps that's just my fantasy.
I don't like steelworks because it smells funny and it's very loud, and so they don't like that. It goes for a whole range of technical and non-technical issues where essentially they look at things that are existing, go, that's old, and we want progress. So we want to progress beyond the old dirty thing. Unfortunately, the old dirty thing is basically the foundations of all national wealth. So they just cut it out.
Okay.
And yes, end up living in a bubble.
Who do you think would win in a fight, Edward Dutton or Academic Agent?
Well, I mean, Dutton has like cerebral palsy or something. So I loathe to give it to Dr. Parvini, but I think he'd win that one.
Who do you think would win in a fight, Sargon of Akkad or Academic Agent?
Well, I think that Sargon of Akkad, I imagine he's more muscular, more skillful. I could imagine that he would know all kinds of martial arts and stuff. But the thing is that with Academic Agent, I think he'd be dirty. He'd play dirty. If I hear, he goes for the winkle.
It's really warning to the contemporaries of his own time about the sins of infighting and how they plague nations. And if the Normans, in the time of the anarchy between Matilda and Stefan, were to infight between one another, it would be the end of the Norman dominion. This is what happened in the history of the Britons, from Julius Caesar to Vortigern to the betrayal of King Arthur, and this is why they've never regained their past glory. And we see this today. A lot of the time, politics within the right is played by infighting. You know, X is a Fed, don't associate with X, they're not as right-wing as us, and it will get us nowhere. It will make us dislike one another, not want to work with one another, and it will give our enemies exactly what they want.
Shaton Master.
Macher, Shadowmaker.
Shadowmaker. What was the gist of your talk?
That the industrial system and the scientific system that has fueled progress for the last few hundred years probably will come to an end sooner than people think.
Right, so you laid out sort of two visions, one of which is we're heading towards a singularity, a great future, and one it's all sort of crapping out. Is that?
Yeah, I think these are the options that are mainly discussed in the internet and in general public. I mean, we have the Kurzweilian vision that we are approaching a AI-fired singularity, or we have more something like John Horgan and others said that science is essentially stagnating and not producing any new results at all.
You bring up the Shire within your speech and Bilbo Baggins and the journeys of Frodo and Sam. Can you tell the audience what the Shire represents?
So, well, the Shire represents a lot of different things, doesn't it? And I mean, one aspect of it is an ideal, comfortable existence, sheltered from the world, and that shelter is illusory, in a sense, because the hobbits are unaware, but their borders are constantly under attack from orcs and trolls and monsters. And it's only the rangers of the north that are keeping it safe. They're protecting it. But when the rangers go away to go and fight in the big battle, spoilers for the story, the hobbits are totally defenseless. And what is ushered in is a bunch of thugs who tyrannize them, destroy their culture, rape and pillage the land, cut down the trees, and essentially it's a dystopia. And it's only when Frodo returns, who's now a hero, having gone on the hero's journey, that they're able to overcome this. So there very much is this point I think Tolkien's making, is that, okay, there is something very lovely about the Shire, but actually it still has to fight for its own existence. Otherwise, nefarious forces are going to invade and destroy it.
I was 14 when Gamergate happened, and it was the Vietnam for my generation. You know, before 2014, video games used to be so great.
Yeah, they were pretty good. It's more the atmosphere was just a lot more relaxed, and when the left comes into any environment, they politicise it, which makes it more rigid and less accepting, and therefore it ends up shrinking because people are like, well, I don't enjoy the environment, I'm just going to leave, even if they don't agree or disagree with the politics. It becomes toxic. They toxify anything they touch, and I think that people on the right have worked this out and said, hang on, we don't toxify anything. That's the point. We actually create a sort of fair environment where everyone can have an equal shake, or the shake they deserve. You know, some people are obviously better at others than at certain things, so everyone's at a different level in every different environment. You know, I mean, if I moved into one of your areas of expertise, I'd be right at the bottom because I wouldn't know anything about it. And you know, if you moved into mine, you might be lower because you might not know about mine. And you know, whenever we're in different spaces, we're always at different levels of these things, and it's totally natural. And it becomes really artificial to like equalize things and artificially advantage others, and therefore you have to detract from someone else unfairly who deserves to be where they are. And because this creates a kind of natural equilibrium in any environment, and you don't need anyone controlling it. It happens automatically. And so this is why it becomes toxified. And if you just let people act normally, then everyone actually just likes the way things are.
So let's assume that we're going to get to a point where this all goes horribly wrong. How do we make sure our friends have energy?
Fortunately, there are a number of what I call alternative energies. One of the statistics I managed to pull out this time was, although what they call bioenergy is a tiny, tiny fraction of the nominal capacity, it's about half of the total energy actually consumed in the country. So it's this tiny little business which is making half of all the renewable energy. So there's a lot of technologies there around solid fuels, liquid fuels, gaseous fuels, and other such projects, which can be done at a local level.
What sort of person would you recommend this conference for?
I would recommend this conference for, well, anyone who has any sort of frustration, perhaps, directed at the events currently going on in Britain, but again wants to become part of a conversation and part of a productive sort of dialogue in which they can truly understand ways of coping with our current predicament, or indeed trying to go beyond it.
A message to the West. How can we today ignite the heroic will within us?
I think, honestly, we need to go back to the old myths, reread the old myths, read things like Beowulf, and contemplate how we can encapsulate that in our lives.
What sort of person would you say would enjoy this kind of event?
Well, I think anyone who is themselves distressed by the state of society and is wondering where do we go from here, which is of course sort of the part of the theme of this event. Because of the way that things are right now, clearly there's some serious issues. And I think a lot of people are looking for answers, and they're not finding those answers in the things that you hear on the regular news.
What do you think of the Witan?
Oh, I think it's fantastic. It's the most high-minded right-wing conference in Britain. People are genuinely beginning to sort of step over the obstacles of the left and their narrative uncertainty, and people are coming to the understanding how no, we are actually morally in the right, and we can at this point stop justifying ourselves. We know why we're doing the things we're doing, and we know that we're doing the right thing for the right reasons, and we will get the right outcomes from that. So what even argument is there to be had with some person who thinks that everyone is the same and there's no difference between us, there's no difference between Islamic values and British values, or that men can become women, and all these other nonsense things that they're trying to make us accept through the tyranny of, oh, it's just this material thing. But nothing is just a material thing. Everything has a lot attached to it, a history attached to it.